All right, so if you've ever been in the situation where you've been on sales calls with a prospect, they seem super interested as you go through the entire process, they like what you're doing, they're asking great questions, they seem excited, and you present the price and they don't end up buying, right? So they either might have some objections, they might need to think about it, whatever it might be, and you try to handle it, or you even don't try to handle it, but you know they're interested, there's potential of them signing up, but they just don't sign up. Right, and you weren't able to handle the objections, so now you're kind of in this awkward phase of, should I email them, should I send them on LinkedIn, should I send them a case study, like what should I do? And you end the call and you're thinking, okay, what do I do in the situation? So this is to solve this problem, right? If they weren't able to sign, right, if they needed to think about it, if they needed to speak to the business partner, if they needed anything else, then this is the process that's worked best for me, and that's worked best for all the other clients that we work with now. And I want to share firstly how to think about it and exactly what to do in this situation. So let's assume that they didn't sign up, right? You went through the proposal, they're interested, but they didn't sign up, right? Whether they need to think about it or whatever it might be. The key point here is that we always want to have a clear next step, right? And before we do this, right, understand that we need to go from discovery, right? This is step one. The clear next step would be proposal, right? Then after proposal, the clear next step would be to sign up and onboard. And if this doesn't happen, then the next step should always be a follow-up, right? So what happens most of the time is that you'll get onto a call with a prospect, they won't buy, and then there won't be a clear next step, right? Either they'll get off of the call and you'll send them an email with what you spoke about, you cross your fingers and you hope that they reply. But in many cases, many cases, they never do, right? So we need to realize, firstly, if we break it down fundamentally, the only reason that they don't buy is that they don't trust the ROI that you'll provide, right? That's it. And the thing is, if you're selling marketing services like all of our clients, the outcome of what you do is going to make them more money than what they pay. So it is literally a no-brainer to buy. If they are paying you $2,000 and you help them generate $20,000, it is literally a no-brainer. You are literally printing money. So the only reason that they wouldn't buy is because they don't see the ROI. And they don't trust that you can deliver this ROI. Not because you're an untrustworthy person, but because you didn't provide them with enough evidence, enough social proof, enough of whatever it takes for them to trust it, right? Because we need to understand that if you make them more money than what they pay to you, you have a great offer, you have a winning offer. Then it becomes that the only thing stopping them from buying is just the trust that you've built, or the lack of trust that you've built. So what we need to do now is build that trust, or if it's purely around price, for example, right, we could lower that price to make an exception. Now this obviously wouldn't be the ideal situation. We don't want to be lowering our prices on every single call, or on any call ideally, but this is pretty much our last resort in terms of getting them started, right? So, and the thing is, most people who business owners, they never talk about this, but everyone has a number as to how low they'll go in terms of lowering their prices. So we need to determine that, right? So before we get to that point, that is the last resort, lowering the prices. We need to firstly understand that we need a clear next step. So if someone on the proposal needs to think about it, you need, and you can't handle the objection, right? Firstly, always try to handle the objection, but if you're not able to handle the objection, you need to schedule a follow-up call, right? So this can be done very easily. They say, yeah, I just need to talk to my partner, and then I'll be able to get back to you. Then all you need to do is say, perfect, that's not a problem. Would you be open to scheduling a follow-up call where we can continue what we spoke about and present anything or answer any questions that your partner might have very efficiently, as opposed to back and forth emails. And the thing is, if they really are interested, they will have no problem with this, But if they're not interested, then they'll be very, very hesitant to doing it, right? They'll be very hesitant to doing it. And this is the first indication of whether they really are interested or not. But you need to ask this nonetheless, because the last thing that you want is for them to understand exactly what you do and rely on them to book a time with you, because that'll never happen. So by scheduling a follow-up, this gives us the opportunity to build this trust again, because there's a reason why they don't think it's going to work. There's a reason why they don't trust the ROI. And what we want to do is uncover what these objections are. So if it's the case that they really do need to speak to their partner, we schedule the follow-up, we get the partner onto the call, and we answer any final questions, and then we get them signed up, right? So we always want to have a clear next step. So if someone doesn't buy on the proposal, always ask to schedule a follow-up, and make this follow-up as soon as humanly possible, right? Next day if you can, right? And never allow the prospect to determine which day the follow-up is going to be, right? So never ask them, cool, are you free, what days are you free for the follow-up? Because they're always going to say some unnecessarily long time frame where it really doesn't take long. So I like to start with saying, would you be open to scheduling a follow-up tomorrow? Right? And this immediately shortens the expectation of how long they should have between this call and the next one. So even if, and in many cases they just say yes, because I asked. But in many cases, or in some cases, they'll say yes, but not that day. But because I made the expectation so small, right, they aren't going to say, no, I can't do it tomorrow, let's do it 12 months, in 12 months' time. They'll be like, okay, can we do it in 2 days or 3 days? As opposed to us asking them initially, and then they say, 2 weeks' time. So we want to schedule the follow-up as soon as possible, right? That is the goal. And really, the next one is, let's say you end the proposal, and I know many of you are in the situation right now. They're interested, they showed interest, but you didn't book a follow-up call, right? You're just sitting in this awkward phase of, we presented the proposal, they know what we do, they know how much we charge, but we're waiting for them to get back to us, and they never seem to do, and they don't answer our emails, and it's not really working, and I don't know how many times to follow up, and that's pretty much the situation for so many agency owners. And the thing is, if you've presented many proposals, you are literally sitting on potential clients that you could message right now after this video, get them onto a call, and sign them up as a client, doing what I'm going to say right now. Because this has happened many, many times for our clients and for us, and it's honestly very simple. So let's say they're interested, but they weren't able to sign up, but they didn't necessarily say no, right? They're interested, but they didn't say no. So what we want to do is, if we just ask them, the thing is, think about it like this. If they were going to buy, they would have bought. If they were going to sign up, they would have signed up. But there's obviously something holding them back. So what we want to do is incentivize this call. We need to give them a reason to get onto this call. Okay? So if the major objection, and we want this reason to be purely based around what the major objection is. So in many cases, it can be price. So if price is the major objection, and you've tried to discern what any other concerns that they might have by asking them questions, by trying to handle the objections, right? So you always want to try to handle the objections first. But if price is the major issue, the alternative that you do have is, if you see opportunity with this brand, if they are an 8-9 figure brand, and you just want to get them on because you'll get them amazing results, you just need to get them to trust you to get started, what you can do, and what we've had other clients do in the past, is if there's a massive opportunity, what they do is they start with a more performance-based offer for the first 3 months. So, for example, it may be, their normal price might be $7,000 per month, flat retainer. But because the prospect objected on price, right? That's the major issue for them. Because that's the major issue, what they did was they made a specific offer or a personal offer where it's, for example, 2,500, it's going to take forever to draw, plus 10% of revenue generated, right? So this allows them, and this is only for the first 3 months, right? For 3 months, and then after they see results, it just goes back to the normal pricing. So the way we can use this to incentivize people to get back onto calls is, firstly, let me just emphasize this point. Do not send the price in the actual email. Do not send the new offer in the actual email, right? Do not say, hey guys, I came up with another option, 2.5 plus 10%. Would you be open to it? And the reason you don't want to do this is because they'll be interested, but you just give them the opportunity to ignore you again, right? You just give them the opportunity to ignore you again. So it's inevitable that they're going to have questions. They're going to have potentially objections. And in many cases, if you're not on the call with them, they're not going to ask it. They're just going to forget, right? So what we want to do is incentivize the call without saying the price. So what you'll say, for example, is, hey Naim, hope you're doing great. It was great speaking on our call, and I understand that the major reason that you're not able to get started right now is because of the price, the significant upfront risk that you might take. But because of what you mentioned on the call, the fact you have all the foundations ready because you have an amazing website and you have the systems, the team, all the case studies that we can leverage, I see a huge amount of opportunity, and I know you think the same. So what I did was I came up with a, introductory pricing where we can get you started with minimal upfront risk and more of a performance basis, just to show you that we'll get great results, and then we can adjust to normal pricing. Would you be open to getting on a call where we can, explain this in more detail and answer any questions? You see, the difference is that we tell them what we're doing, so we're reducing the upfront risk for them while increasing the performance, so that there's more of an incentive, but we're not saying exactly how we do it with the pricing. So once you get onto the call with them, what you can do is present it, right? Just present the pricing, and then you're going to see that they have questions. Because, again, if they were ready to buy, they would just buy. So they'll be like, okay, this sounds really good. I think this is something we can do. Then they have a whole list of questions. You handle those objections or those questions very well, and then you get started, right? And if they really can't get started there, like I mentioned, always schedule a next step. Would you be open to a follow-up call where you can finalize everything and answer the final questions, right? You need to have a next step in the sequence, right? And again, another point that I want to emphasize is over here, speak from the standpoint of you are making an exception to get them on board, right? As opposed to you just dropping your prices for the sake of dropping your prices, right? What you don't want to do is send them an email over here saying, hey Naim, hope you're doing great. I'd actually be able to get you started at 5K instead of 7. Or I'll actually be able to get you started at 2.5. Then they're like, so this guy just lowers his prices for everyone? Like, so what? So then your price has no meaning. It has no like integrity behind it. So what you want to do is speak from the point of, because of this, we're able to do this for the first 3 months. So because you have the foundations ready, because you have all the systems and the team and the case studies and all this ready, and the fact that we see huge amounts of opportunity, we're willing to do this for the first 3 months just to, get trust that the process works incredibly well, and then we can move back to the original pricing, right? So you're speaking from the standpoint of an exception, making an exception just, for this situation specifically, not like you'll do this every single time for anyone that says no, okay? So this applies as well to different objections. If let's say the objection wasn't necessarily price, but it was, it might just take too long to get started, right? Then what you can do is, instead of saying, we're going to reduce the prices, what you can do is say, hey John, hope you're doing good. And the exact same thing, because of your situation, because of this, we found a way that we can get you started a lot sooner with less work on your end. But we just want to make sure a few certain things are in place before we do this. Would you be open to get onto a call? So we said this from the standpoint of, look, we could potentially do this for you if you have these things in place. And we're going to figure out those things on the call. So what I've done in the past for our own business is, if an agency, right, if I see a huge amount of potential with the agency, what I do is I say, similar to this one, if there is potential and we see a lot of potential upside for the performance, what we'll do is potentially raise the performance but decrease the retainer. But they need to have certain things in place. So they need to have this amount of case studies. They need to have these systems. They need to have a sales team. So when we get onto this follow-up call, it's not just for me to present price, it's also for them to qualify themselves to us on why, they should be able to work with us. And then they'll present their case studies to me. I'll see if it makes sense, and then we'll determine if we can get them on board. So again, this is the standpoint that we want to take, right? We're not just some fragile, business where pricing can just be swayed at any time if someone says no, right? We have a price for a reason, but, if we see huge amounts of potential and we just need to build that trust, then we can, get them onto a call to explain what we can do. Okay, so I hope this makes sense. Just to recap, we need a clear next step at every single point in the sales process, from discovery to proposal to signing up. Or if they don't sign up, always handle the objections first, always try to understand. But if not, schedule a follow-up call as soon after as possible. And if you're in these situations where you weren't able to get a call booked, reach out to them with an incentive for them to get back onto the call, where you can present something new, because they're not going to get back onto the call if you're just going to say the same thing over and over and try to convince them, right? It needs to be appealing to them. You need to sell them on getting onto the call again with you, okay? So always get the next step, right? And realize that the only reason that someone wouldn't buy is because they don't trust the ROI. So in many cases, we just need to build that trust with them. And the best way to build trust is not via email conversations that are 48 hours between every message, and some people see it, some people don't. You don't know if they saw it. It doesn't work. We need to get this done on a call. And that's the reason why, all these sales are done face to face or on calls, as opposed to just, sending messages via LinkedIn. You're not going to sign $20,000, $50,000 clients on back and forth text with someone you've never met, right? So I hope this makes sense. If you have any questions, just let me know, and I'll talk to you in the next one.